Famed botanist Wilfred Glendon returns from Tibet with a strange Mariphasa flower and a bite on the arm. Two things happen when the moon rises: the flower blooms, and Glendon turns into a werewolf. Because a prick of the flower provides an antidote for werewolfery, the mysterious Dr. Yagama steals the flowers, leaving Glendon to roam the streets as the Werewolf of London, instinctively seeking to kill the thing he loves most, his wife, Lisa.
Not before.
Remember this, Dr. Glendon. The werewolf instinctively seeks to kill the thing it loves best.
You brought this on me that night in Tibet.
Sorry I can't share this with you.
Let's talk a little bit about Warner Oland, because I've got a crazy story about him. So Warner Oland, 1935, he was definitely at the peak of his career. He had done some movies prior to this, Before Dawn, Drums of Jeopardy. He had done 3 Fu Manchu movies: The Mysterious Dr. Fu Manchu in 29, Return of Dr. Fu Manchu in 1930, Daughter of the Dragon in 31. He was also in 16 Charlie Chan films. And so 35, he was at the peak of those Charlie Chan films. So this is 35, and within 3 years, he was dead. Warner Oland had a very kind of tragic end. In 1937, they were making what would have been his 17th Charlie Chan film. It was called Charlie Chan at Ringside. They had started filming it, and he had started becoming a little more erratic prior to this film, but during the filming of Charlie Chan at Ringside, he really kind of went downhill. At one point, he just kind of walked off set, never came back. He claimed the studio was possessed by voodoo, and nothing they said could get him to come back. Now known that he was most likely suffering from some early signs of dementia. Unfortunately, his health declined to the point where he went to Switzerland and died in 1938 at the age of 58 of bronchial pneumonia. This movie kind of comes towards the end of his career, although he's at the peak of it in a lot of ways. Now, here's a couple of fun little things about that. So Charlie Chan at Ringside...
Fun little things about him dying an early, sad death.
Okay, not that. Perhaps not the right verbiage I should have used. They kept a lot of the footage that they filmed, but they ended up turning it into a Mr. Moto movie. Mr. Moto's Gamble with Peter Lorre. His number one son, which I think was called Lee Chan, is still in the movie. Key Luke played the character, and they kept his scenes. So it's a Mr. Moto movie with Charlie Chan's son in the film. It stands out as kind of an odd Mr. Moto film, but they somehow made it work. Another interesting side note is that Sidney Toler ended up replacing Warner Oland and became the next Charlie Chan. He also died at I guess not a young age, but in the midst of making Charlie Chan films. He died in 1947 at the age of 72 of cancer. He was definitely struggling in his last couple of films. You don't see him stand up a lot. And I've actually visited the grave of Sidney Toler. Sidney Toler is buried in Wichita, Kansas, of all places.
Huh.
His father is buried there at, I think it's Highland Cemetery on Hillside in Wichita. Gosh, 25 years ago, I visited there with my friend Steve that I worked with. I don't even know how we became aware of this, but somehow one of us did, and it was a comment, we should go visit. We ended up going there, and it was interesting. There's the headstone. He's buried with his father. In front of this relatively newer headstone 25 years ago, the remnants of the original headstone was like on the ground. It apparently had been broken up, and I don't know if there's some superstitious thing about leaving a broken up headstone where it is. I don't know why it was still there. Some group called the Women of the World went ahead and bought this new headstone. I have no idea who the Women of the World were, why they would buy a headstone. I don't know if it was related to the father or what the case was. This has nothing to do with Werewolf of London, but it was a weird kind of.
That's why we're putting it on the video. And you know what? Next time we need to do a happy video.